in Seattle, we hear the word snow. People are like, oh my God, I can't leave my house. Oh my God, my snow, yeah, that gets stuck. So this is really exciting, and it's so nice to start off 2011 seeing, you know, a bunch of people that I know, and there's some faces I know and others that I don't. So thanks for joining. And I was thinking about my remarks for this over the weekend. It is true that I have children, a 3-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. So the other thing that I spent time doing over the weekend was actually going to a bunch of birthday parties. It was like birthday party palooza this weekend. And so I was spending some time with my daughter, who was, you know, she was painstakingly, we had chosen the gift, she had wrapped the gift, and she loves doing art. And so she had, bless her heart, done this lovely card. You know, there were hearts, and there were flowers, and there were birds chirping. It was really lovely. And so when she was putting together the package, I noticed the envelope of this card. And what struck me about it was that it was equally lovely, and the name on the outside said Anique. So, which would be fine, except that the present wasn't for Anique, that's my daughter. The present was for her friend Sophie. And so I said to my daughter, Anique, sweetie, why don't you put Sophie's name on it? She said, well, then she would know it was from me. Right? So all of this happened. I was like, that reminds me a little bit of what happens with nonprofits and their messaging. Right? Which is, you're just getting yours that. Hold on over there. Which is, there's a lot of, and this comes from a good place, right? This isn't to harsh on anybody's mellow about nonprofit messaging, but there's a lot of kind of this, I want you to know what we are doing, right? So I came up with a list. It was actually a pretty long list, which I pulled down to 5. My top 5 nonprofit messaging no-nos. No-nos. And as part of this, the frame I wanted was to sort of get us refocused so that we're not sending out envelopes where it's the name of our organizations on it, but rather with that mindset of, in that moment, in that initial moment, when we're trying to get people to engage and to want to learn more about what our organizations are doing, that's such a brief, fleeting moment. Will they eventually want to know more about your organization? Yeah, you bet they will. But in that initial moment, it really has to be about them. And so turning that messaging around. So without further ado, I will go through my top 5 nonprofit messaging no-nos. No. All right, so, wow, that's background music or something. So number 1 is no more making your mission statement do the work of your messaging. All right, so think about the job of a mission statement. The mission statement is largely done by a committee of board members and volunteers and staff, right? The audience for the mission statement is largely internal. It's done internally, it's crafted internally. That's its job. There's nothing wrong with that. Organizations need a mission, vision, and value statements. However, it perplexes me when nonprofits are perplexed that they take the mission statement and put it on as the first thing on a website or on the outside of a brochure or it becomes the response to the question, what does your organization do? And people aren't compelled by it. It's not your mission statement's job to be compelling. Right? That's the job of your messaging, is to take the things that are so true about your organization, take the things that are most compelling that will be most compelling to your audience, so that they ask you more questions. So, no more making your mission statement, do the job of your messaging. Number 2 is no more, however you want to say that, trying to convert atheists. Now, some of you have heard me talk about this before, all right? So, it's a concept that I think I originally heard from Guy Kawasaki a really long time ago, which is there's really 3 groups of people, okay? There's believers, there's agnostics, and there's atheists. The believers are the people who believe what you believe, right? So when they hear about what you're doing, they're there. You know, they are ready to learn more. They want to engage. They want to take action. Your agnostics believe what you believe, but it might not be top of the heap in terms of an organization that they want to support, but they are, and this is important, convertible. You could convert them. Atheists, by definition, don't believe. They don't believe. And yet, because we care so passionately about what we do in the nonprofit sector, we spend an inordinate amount of time and resources, by definition, trying to convert atheists. You cannot convert an atheist. So, take that time that you're currently trying to convert atheists and spend it on finding every single believer that's out there. I would venture, I'm not really into betting, but I would bet that you will never exhaust the number of people who believe in what you believe. It's a matter of finding them, figuring out who they are and finding them. Welcome. Hey, Amanda. Hey. So that's number 2. No more trying to convert atheists. Number three is no more talking only to your believers' heads. There seems to be an epidemic these days, and I'm not quite sure where it came from, but that we spend a lot of time talking right out of the gate about numbers and impact and outcome statements. Are you going to want to share that information with people? Absolutely. Should you be able to prove both quantitatively and qualitatively that what you're doing has an impact? Absolutely. I'm not saying you don't want to do that. But listen, our heads hurt. Everybody's heads hurt. Like, you came here today at the end of the day. Think about that, Your heads are full. So if you go to somebody and you're immediately talking to their head, just bear in mind that their head kind of hurts. Now, on the flip side, how often do our hearts get spoken to in a given day? Did anybody speak to your heart today? Right? You do amazing work. You actually have the opportunity to speak to people's hearts. So give them something in that initial interaction that makes them want to learn more, that makes them want to have you speak to their heads. But I see time and time again that out of the gate, in those initial moments, we go right for the head, and then people kind of just don't hear it, right? And so then they don't want to engage further. This leads me into point number 4, which I confess has a 4A and a 4B. But I mushed them into one. All right. Which is no more responses to the question, what does your organization do, that make people either go, huh? Or make them go, duh. All right. So, the huh? This is something that is not the sole purview of the nonprofit sector per se, but there is a lot of jargon, right? Like, we live and breathe and we all speak in jargon. I mean, I'm forever talking about messaging and marketing and frameworks and all of this stuff, right? Because that's what I live and breathe every day. But again, everybody's heads kind of hurt. Think of the simplest way to say what you do that will speak to their heart. So I was sitting with an organization this morning, and they were saying what we really want to do is make sure that people understand that we provide foundational concepts to elementary school students. I was like, really? Really? Honestly, you want me to put that in that little box that says top-level messaging, foundational concepts, building blocks for elementary school students? Really? They were like, well, yeah. And I said, I know that you know what that means, but I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea, and I don't really want to know, because foundational concepts sound sort of, well, foundational and not that interesting, right? And it makes me think I'm going to have to think. I don't really want to do that. So when I heard that, I went, huh? Right? We hear a lot about bridging the digital divide. I'm all for bridging the digital divide. I am all for, closing the achievement gap and all those things. But there are ways to talk about that that are more compelling, yet equally as accurate. Right? So that's the huh? And then the duh statements. So it turns out that we have about 9 seconds, which is 2 seconds longer than we had thought. We always had said, yeah, I did last week. Yeah. So I don't know why people say our attention spans are shrinking, because clearly they're not. We'll pay attention for a full 9 seconds to whatever you have to say. All right, and also interestingly, so we will take about 9 seconds. In 9 seconds, all of us, whether we know it or not, will make a decision about whether or not we want to know more about what you're talking about, or whether or not we want to read, right? So it's a couple heartbeats, really. Also, it is about the same amount of time as it takes to read the average length of a tweet. I find this fascinating. So, 9 seconds, approximately 140 characters. So if you have 9 seconds, you want to make every single word count. So I am baffled by why, as a sector, I hear so many responses to this question about what does your organization do that include some variation on the phrase, we do blah, 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 to create thriving, vibrant communities. I'm not against thriving, vibrant communities. I like thriving, vibrant communities. But honestly, I mean, is is anyone going to say, really? Because I want communities that are withering. I mean, should that be somewhere? But yeah, okay, maybe in your vision statement, right? Again, it's not that it doesn't need to be there. This is about how are you going to get people so that they want to learn more about what you do. Can we not, in 2011, as a sector, take it as a given that we are here day in and day out working to create thriving, vibrant, healthy communities? Can we? Can we? That would be an audience participation moment. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Didn't y'all get enough to drink? Bartender. Okay, so that would be the duh, really just because you don't need to say it. You have 9 seconds. All of those words need to count. Make them about something that is compelling and unique about your organization, not about something that is true about the entire sector as a whole. It's a good thing to be true about the entire sector, but it's not unique to your organization. All right, so that's 4A and 4B, no hums and no does. So last but not least, I consider this saving the best for last, really, and some of you have heard me pontificate about it prior. I have been troubled, really genuinely I've been troubled, since about mid-December by the number of things that I am reading, hearing, seeing from nonprofits that begin with an apology. The number of direct appeal letters that I got where the overarching tone was, I'm sorry. We are sorry. We are sorry for what we didn't do. Troubles me. It troubles me because I don't think, hi, welcome, because it's not about what you didn't do, right? First and foremost, this isn't a question of didn't. It is much more a question of couldn't, if anything, right? I don't think it's anybody's fault that the economy has tanked, right? It's none of our faults that the economy has tanked. Beside that, that's not even the question to be starting. It's not even the tone to be putting out there, right? If anything, this is the time to start out with something that isn't putting a bright, shiny face on what's really not a very good situation, but it is a moment as a sector to say, this is bad, and yet, in 2010, this is what we did. Is it as good, perhaps, by the indicators as what we did in 2009 or 2008? Maybe not. But that's not the point. The point is we were able to do this, we do know what we were doing, and we need you. We need you. I got a letter from an organization, so every day, approximately 45,000 kids go to school, so hungry, in Washington State, our state. About 45,000 go to school. They're so hungry that they can't even focus on the chalkboard because they are so hungry. That's unconscionable, right, in my humble estimation. Right, so I get a letter that went approximately along the lines of, in 2009 we were able to serve 5,000. Last year we're sorry, but we only served 4,500. Right? Now, does it make me want to weep, quite honestly? I mean, I do have 2 kids, and the idea of them going to school so hungry makes me want to weep. Every single of those 500's big chunk is an individual, you know, that's somebody's child. And that is, I mean, that's heart-wrenching. They still serve 4,500, right? Focus me on the fact that you did serve 4,500, and then show me, give me hope. Show me how I can help you not just get back to 5,000, because we've still got 40,000 to go. Right? This sector knows what it's doing, and I'm quite frankly, my friends, a little sick and tired of like the nonprofit sector sitting back and being like, yeah, inefficiencies, we don't have enough resources, blah, blah, blah. Last time I checked, there were also inefficiencies in the for-profit sector, never mind the government sector. Right? So, rather than starting with an apology about what you couldn't do, I want to see you start from a place of this is what we did do. And just think of what we could do if you would join us. Yes? Thank you, Mr. Shuri. Just think. Okay, so it's about the overarching tone. All right, so, in sum, number 1, no more making your mission statement do the job of your messaging. Number 2, no, we're trying to convert atheists. You can't convert them. Number 3, no, we're talking to people's heads a lot more than their hearts. Yes? Number 4, no more responses that make people go, huh, or duh. And number 5, no more apologizing. Please, no more apologizing. So with that, I will turn it back to Lisa. I will unapologetically turn it back to Lisa. I will not apologize for the fact that I probably went 3 minutes over. 2 or 3 minutes over.
And I'm not going to apologize for